into the interviews right here. All right. Hey, live universe. We are live. We are here with Eric Witsoe, and we are here with Barry Phillips, and Jacqueline is going to be joining us at some point. She's out there somewhere. Eric and Barry, before we actually go live in the podcast recording, please say hi to everybody. And Barry, I'm trying to figure out how to unmute you over here. Here you go.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Hello from Northern Ireland.
Hello from Warsaw, Poland.
This must be Europe hour, everybody. This is going to rock, and I'm really looking forward to this. We've got all kinds of great stuff to discuss here on Be The Talk. So, Barry, I am going to mute you again. Eric, we've already done our, you don't know this, but I've done the audio checking. We are about even, which is great. So any questions to me before we dive in on this for the next 15 minutes or so?
Nope, I'm ready to go.
Awesome. Well, great. And just looking, I'm looking on my second screen here, which is a small one, to make sure that I find. There we go. It's Seattle photographer. That's why I can't find it. that's why I can't find it right there. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, we are live in 3, 2. We are live with Eric Witsoe. Eric,
Hello?
Are you ready to talk?
I'm ready to talk, Nathan.
Seattle native photographer who's exploring cinematic life through his lens in Warsaw, Poland, Eric Witsoe has made his home with his fiancée for the last 7 years overseas. Perspective has helped Eric pave the way for self-understanding through everyday adventures, allowing him to unearth the often humorous aspects of his new journey abroad. Eric Witsoe, welcome to the talk.
It's great to be here, Nathan. Thanks for having me.
Your talk has called Discovering Myself Abroad Through a Mini Adventure Perspective. And I love this because I haven't spent a lot of time in Europe, but I can definitely relate to spending a lot more time in a grocery store than I originally thought. Maybe not as much as 2 or 3 hours. Please, Eric, take us behind the talk.
You know, life here is always interesting and intriguing. And my life really is made up of mini adventures throughout the day. So the moment that I leave the door in the morning for whatever I'm going to do, I don't really have an expectation of how it's going to roll out. Not so much of a plan, but these adventures take the place of just everything being different from what I know from back home. And like you said, going to the grocery store can be an adventure itself. And when I first got here, everything is so different from what I would know. First of all, the Polish language is very difficult. It's very different, and it's not intuitive. So I might look at something that looks like butter, but I'm not quite sure it is. So
I can't believe that wouldn't be butter. I've just got to say.
Exactly. If I grew up on that thing, I can't believe that's not butter. And these differences always make me intrigued, and they always keep me very interested and grounded. So I discovered a new facet of my life through living here. And the last 7 years have just been this roller coaster of adventures every day.
Well, and if you can help me understand which focus is your main focus right now, because, I mean, you're running a coffee shop, you do comics, you do photography, you're an artist, you're learning the language. What's the main thing that you're doing in the context of living every day as an adventure, which is really the key piece that I think has been brilliant? What's your main purpose right now? What's your main focus?
My main focus is photography. So I am a freelance photographer. We closed our coffee shop a couple years ago, so I could refocus and repurpose myself into photography, and it's kind of been that way ever since. So that's where my head is at now.
So I can certainly vouch as well as anyone else who's seen your branded talk, because you show some of your photography in there. You caught Poland. I didn't know Poland was known for being a place for we call them leaf peepers when the colors come out in the trees and the leaves change colors and all of that. You have some great work that you show in your talk of your photography. So when did you discover this? Was this the start of your adventure? Did that help you clue into the whole adventure thing when you saw this amazing vivid color?
You know, day one was the beginning of that. Coming from Seattle, and Seattle is very much like it's a very wet, rainy city. It can be, and there's not much deviation throughout the weather every year. You know, it's like we have it's green, very, very green, but it's also very wet and very gray. So coming here to Poland, where there's 4 distinct seasons, all of a sudden everything changed for me. And it was immediately when we arrived here in September. We arrived at the end of summer, the beginning of fall, and within a week, everything had gone to brilliant reds and yellows and oranges, colors that I had never seen growing up in Pacific Northwest. And of course, we have these kind of trees there, but not as predominant as here. And I think that the weather here is much more like Midwestern type of weather. So it gets cold winters, very hot summers, and then all of the seasons that you might find in between. The adventures started day one. You know, really, this was the exploration of color. And part of the background of that color is that I love black and white, but I felt like immediately coming here, my photography was going to be based in color because I really wanted people to see how beautiful Poland is. And I don't think that there's this really big awareness of how gorgeous it is here and how vibrant it can be and how all those differences just make something really special and incredible. So that's kind of where that ended up.
Well, yeah, and I've been to Seattle. A bunch of Talk Universe is listening from Seattle as well as the West Coast, and it's not very deciduous. So it's evergreen trees, which, you know, the region of the country that I live in, it's very deciduous. So when I go out to the Northwest, I think it's beautiful, all the green, but it's all perspective. It's all perspective. So what would you consider yourself a polyglot at this point, Eric? Do you know several different languages at this point? I really appreciated how you let us in. It's very transparent and vulnerable. You let us into your struggles learning the Polish language and actually cracking into the culture, because a lot of people, this was interesting to me. If you say hi to them, they felt, if I remembered correctly, they felt like they were supposed to have remembered who you were, and you were just saying hi for the first time. And so you discovered this cultural, I don't want to call it a disconnect, but a different way of thinking. So how have you bridged that in addition to your persistence?
I am not a polyglot. I'll say that. I wish that I were fluent in Polish, but I am not yet. I still have a lot to learn. But I understand the language quite a bit, just not fluent yet. But being able to observe it from the point of view that I have, and especially as a coffee shop owner, it was always very interesting. And it's very true. The culture's different from what we would know as Americans. I mean, it's nothing for us to say hello to a stranger. If somebody catches your eye, immediately you'll smile and you'll say hello or not. It's up to you. Here, that often leaves somebody very confused. They don't know if they've met you. They don't know where they met you. They're not sure if they should know you. And it's enough to stop somebody in their tracks and lead to a lot of uncertainty. And when I first arrived, I was saying hello to everybody. I was so excited, and being an excited American, you know, that's exactly what you're doing. You're just running around and saying, hello, hello, hello. My fiance had told me, you know, you probably should not do that as much. And led me to a little bit of kind of self-reflection as to why, but eventually I had to just say hello anyway.
Friendly American. And it almost reminds me as a little bit of a heightened Seinfeld episode. It's a little bit funny in a way, because that someone would be almost put off in a good way, because they're trying to be polite and they're racking their brain. So how do you get to know people? If you can't say hi to people, I guess the question is, if you can't say hi, what is the Polish appropriate, politically correct Polish way when in Poland to get to meet people as the Polish do?
It's generally accepted to do this maybe in a coffee shop or at somebody's home or be introduced through friends. But on the streets, you wouldn't just stop somebody and say, hello, hello, I really like your shoes. Where did you get your shoes? That wouldn't happen.
Okay.
So it's kind of, you have to have it in context. Maybe in the mall, it's okay to ask somebody, where did you get that? But on the street, not so much.
Well, it almost seems to me like the context is everything. It's like if you get a rogue email from someone that you don't know, saying hi and acting friendly, I could, understand how I would feel, and I would probably put it over to spam. And so maybe it's similar to that. That's a good way to contextualize it, perhaps.
There's a lot of different buffers here. I think that in the States, one of the things that I think about a lot is that because the United States is such a country of immigrants, people had to come there not knowing English so much. So they had to figure out new ways to have people trust them. And smiling was one of those ways. And I think it's stuck through our culture. And so coming here, there isn't that, it's Poland. People here are Polish. They speak Polish language. They're used to this. This is their cultural bridge for each other. So having somebody that isn't integrated into that is the odd personality. I have to learn how to fit in with that, but I still have to maintain being American. So it's kind of an interesting balance of sorts.
We've been enjoying this conversation with Eric Witsoe, and he is an artist. He does comics. He does photography. He is learning Polish the best he can right now. And his talk is called Discovering Myself Through a Mini Adventure Perspective. And in a few moments, we'll let you know where you can go to actually click on a link, watch that talk. But right now, it's time for you, Talk Universe. So we will be right back in just a moment with the Blitz Round. And we're back with the Blitz Round with Eric Witsoe. I'm about to ask Eric a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of his recent branded talk. Eric, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Were you selected to speak, or did you apply?
I was selected.
Are you a improviser, a memorizer, or a blender?
Blender.
How did that serve you?
It was great up until the 30 seconds before the hitting the stage, and I couldn't remember a single word from what I had supposedly in my head. So.
No kidding. So, where did it go from there? How did you get on track? Because obviously, I didn't tell from watching the recording. So, what happened next?
As soon as I got up on the stage and I could say hello, I took a breath and it just kind of came out. But my years of being in the hospitality business kind of prepared me for that. So I wasn't panicked. I knew that something would come. I just needed to start talking, and that's kind of where it came from. That.
Eric, what's a tip, a tool, or a technique that helped you?
The technique that helped me when I was on stage at the TED Talk was actually to just look at the light and not try to see the crowd so much. Know that they're there, but not try to focus on every single person. I don't usually get nervous, but knowing that there was that many people in front of me kind of set the nerves off. The light actually helped me to calm down a little bit. So just looking at that light really kind of helped me focus.
Here's the cut for time question. What was the most painful part of your talk that you had to trim in advance?
I think that probably a little bit more the lengthy storytelling that would go into some of the background, going back into what I discovered about myself in Poland, how to figure out how to working within 18 minutes is very difficult. I could speak for hours, but 18 minutes is like, wow, I have a chunk of time and I need to fit all of this in there. And my first version of the speech was including way too much. A lot of my photography, I wanted to talk more about some of the things that I've discovered along the way there, but I had to really kind of narrow it down to 2 or 3 pieces of it. That was difficult. It was all, very difficult.
We've been enjoying the Blitz Round with Eric Witsoe. His talk is called Discovering Myself Abroad Through a Mini Adventure Perspective. And as promised, if you want to check that talk out and you don't want to type it all into YouTube, you can go to our show notes page at BeTheTalk.com. We will have a clickable link for you there. And if you want to connect with Eric, check out his photography, get to know him a little bit, even though he is very likely on the other side of the world from many of you. You can go to ericwitsoe.com. Eric's, actually, I'll spell it for you, ERIKWITSOE.com. And we will be back in just a moment with the final word of advice. And we're back with Eric Witsoe. It's time for the final word of advice for us in Talk Universe.
Ready? My final word of advice is this: travel often, and figure out those neighborhoods of culture that you might be missing. Make a little mini adventure for yourself every day, even in your own neighborhood. Try to discover something new. I like to, even when I was back in Seattle living there, some of the things that I would do would be to be a tourist in my own city. And so if you can't travel, do that. Be a tourist for a day. See and change your perspective. Somehow do something that you'd planned on doing and hadn't gotten to. Climb that building up at the top floor, take a ferry, take a new road, whatever you need to do to change your perspective.
Eric Witsoe, thanks so much for coming on the talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
It's great to be here.
All right, that's a wrap.
Super.
Hey,
great.
Not too painful?
No, it was great.
All right, even for Jackie, who has joined us here. I'm going to unmute you here, Jackie.
Zoom link, guys.
Hey, welcome to the hazing ritual here. Now, just
what? I haven't received the Skype call, so maybe something's going on.
yeah, gotta check that last email that I sent. We have switched over to Zoom. And we have a talk show format, so we are actually broadcasting right now on Facebook Live. We're going to get to you after we take care of Barry here. And Eric, man, great interview. So any other thoughts, advice to Barry and Jacqueline here?
Have fun. It's a great thing. I really like this format. It's really cool.
It is fun, and I like it because it really cuts down on a lot of the repetitive stuff that I used to have to do. So, and I kind of feel like Johnny Carson a little bit, or maybe at least Kramer when he did that episode when he stole the Merv Griffin show stuff out of the trash. I watched too much Seinfeld, but
oh man,
I kind of feel like that a little bit.
I love the Seinfeld novels. I could use those all day long.
Well, it really worked with the whole thing about smiling at people in Poland.
Having a coffee shop in Poland was often a Seinfeld show every day.
I bet. Well, great. Well, hey, Eric, I am going to thank you, and I'm going to mute you, and I'm going to unmute Barry because he is on deck here, and I'm going to practice Barry's bio right here, so let me know if I'm doing anything wrong. But Barry Phillips qualified as an attorney in the United Kingdom and now works in business leading the multi-award-winning training company Legal Island. The company has won Best Place to Work in Ireland on many occasions. And let's see, the website, I am looking for the website over here, legalisland.com with a hyphen in between, correct?
That's right.
All right, very good. And just bear with me because the only way I can do this is by this is my second screen, so I have to scroll through this because I have to screen share in order to broadcast this Zoom with all of us here, and so that and I don't want to be showing spreadsheets or anything else like that, and that would be a very amateur move on several levels. So especially with legal experts on the show. Oh my gosh. Oh heavens. Oh my word. Oh.
I call myself an expert.
Yeah. Well, go figure. Well, good. Well, I am. So there may be a little bit of pausing on my end just because I'm scrolling around.
I just wanted to say, Eric, well done. Maybe I should say, dziękuję bardzo. And Yakshi Masha, Eric. On an interesting related point, I'm actually married to a Russian, and I spent quite a bit of time in Russia. And I hope she wouldn't mind me saying Russians don't smile cheaply, So when you said Poles don't do eye contact and smile particularly very much, that resonated with me. I've talked to my wife quite a bit about this, but it doesn't make them rude. It's just they're different, and it takes a while just to adjust. But once you make those relevant adjustments, there's some very, very warm people to be found in Russia, and I'm sure Poland as well. Just thought I'd throw that in.
Awesome. Well, great. I am going to just because we're getting up to that time where if I don't keep them to right on the clock, I miss the next hour. I'm still learning how to do this, folks, and it keeps me on my toes. I did 200 interviews the old one-on-one way, and now this is definitely upping the challenge, which is a good thing. So I think that we are good to go. If you know what, Barry, if you can give me a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We are about even on the audio, so we are going to be live in 3, 2. We are live with Barry Phillips. Barry, are you ready to talk?
I'm ready to talk, Nathan. Lovely to meet you, and come on, let's do this.
Barry Phillips qualified as an attorney in the United Kingdom and now works in business, leading the multi-award-winning training company Legal Island. This company has won the best place to work in Ireland on many occasions. Barry Phillips, welcome to the talk.
It's great to be here, Nathan. Hello.
Well, your talk is called Why It's Time to Ditch Open Door Policies in the Workplace. It is a recent branded talk, and you went through this shock of being the best place to work, and then in 1 month as a small business, not 1, not 2, but 4 of your top employees quit out of nowhere. What was that shock like? And please take us behind that moment.
That shock was huge because until that happened, I thought I was a great business leader. I thought I knew everything about running an SME. But when I look back on it, it was my most spectacular and, if you like, most welcome failure. And I learned a huge amount from that. And I began to, after that moment, build my company, I think, properly, and drop in proper communication channels. So at the time, I thought it was the worst thing that could have happened to me. But I realize now it was actually one of the best things that could have happened.
Well, I'm wondering if it was, I love that you called it a welcome opportunity, but I'm wondering if it was welcome right when it happened. How long did it take for you to see the blessing in it and to have a growth mindset approach instead of just reactive?
Yeah, great question. It took me probably the best part of 12 months to actually objectively analyze and for others to help me see what had happened. And it was really only after that period of time that I began to look at it and actually learn the lessons. You know, a lot of business people, they rate failure and sort of say it's really important, you're stepping stones to success. But I wonder how many people actually learn what needs to be learned from their failures. And it certainly took me a long time to learn what I needed to learn from that particular episode and that development of my business.
Well, Barry, it's all relative. I mean, for some people, 12 months is a very long time. For other people, it's not much time at all. I really appreciate your candor in that. I think that, for an award-winning legal firm, and the kinds of, the kind of personalities that would work in a legal firm, I would imagine that it would take a little bit of time. 12 months sounds kind of fast, in my estimation, to really come around it and see it as the opportunity, as the welcome, opportunity that you now call it. You know, my question at this point is, I mean, were you still winning awards during that transition point, or did you take a little bit of a break from the awards as you went and worked on the whole thing? That's a
Yeah,
little bit of a candid question, but I got to ask it.
no, that's a great question too. Um, I took a moment out and I thought, okay, rather than, go for the next award, then go for the best consultant that can help me here and can come in and sort of help me see perhaps what I can't see. And so there was a good moratorium on awards for about 5 years until I began to get the processes in place. And then I got back to the awards and thought, okay, let's have a look at my business now and let's see if I can go for awards that I really feel will reflect on the company and the work that I've done in that period of time.
Yeah, well, and so you're really introducing the idea into the conversation of systems thinking, the idea that there are outcomes and there are inputs, and you kept getting great outputs until you hit this hiccup and people started resigning. And what I love about your talk is you start talking about the different cultures, the different preferences, the different backgrounds, very similar to the conversation that we just had here on this broadcast about different cultures and different ways of relating, and what seems perfectly normal and friendly to one person is a little bit unsafe or alarming to another. So what if you can kind of go behind that piece of your talk, because you get some great storytelling, there's emotion, there's all, beautiful story about a dog that just tugged at my heartstrings that we don't have time to get into right now. That's why I give the link in the show notes. But if you can talk about what you discovered about the different preferences people have and what another employer or executive who's listening to this right now, what they could do to put that into place to run a more efficient, effective, and personable business.
Sure. The big mistake, just to try and summarize it in one or two sentences, the big mistake that I've made was to basically have an open door to my office, which gave me a get out and get out of jail card free. So when something happened, which was clearly because of a communication glitch between me and my employees, I could always fall back on it and say, well, they could have come in at any point through that door to tell me they weren't happy, or they felt that they were being undervalued, underpaid, or they wanted to go somewhere else. And so it just gave me an opportunity to a ready-made excuse not to give any proper consideration to how to do meaningful communication and feedback within the company. And I asked myself the big question afterwards, why isn't it that they weren't coming through that open door? Because I always thought of myself as being a very approachable boss. I never lost my temper. I never started shouting at people. I thought I was very approachable. So I thought if there was going to be one type of boss that they would come to through that open door, it was me. But I then began to analyze it, and I thought there's lots of reasons. Culturally, we're very different. The British and the Irish, we don't do direct feedback very well. The Germans excel in it. If you ask a German whether they've enjoyed your food, they'll tell you if they haven't, But the British and Irish will say, well, oh no, it's a bit different. And yeah, it was quite nice and so on and so forth. So culturally, there's lots of reasons why somebody won't come in through that door. But there's also the big one of safety to speak, particularly in small organizations. However approachable the boss may be, if there's only 15 or 20 in that company, it's not realistic for the business leader to expect that employee to come in and say, look, I think you really screwed up at our meeting yesterday. I think you've got the strategy wrong. They have a salary that's depending on their employment, mortgage, family to feed and so on. I just wasn't being realistic in expecting them to come through that door and to give me the sort of feedback that I needed.
Barry, I think it's just brilliant because you're really debunking this myth. It's a myth of, oh, I have an open door policy, and I think this has been going on in the United States and probably globally for at least the last 30 to 40, maybe longer than that, years. This idea that is very management oriented, and we're no longer in a management, big business, big company world. It's more entrepreneurial. It's more small business. It's about emotional intelligence, and it's all about culture and talent retention. And so if you're clinging on to whatever it is, it might even be a valid principle. But what I hear you saying is you had this kind of like a genie or something that you could rub. It was your open door. And so it wasn't on you as an employer to go to them. They had, they had the open door and they could come to you. And this conversation is really about taking more responsibility and how you learned to overcome that, take even more responsibility for owning that piece as a business owner. So any final words, and then we're going to actually pivot over to the Blitz round. But I want to make sure I didn't put any words in your mouth on that. Thank you for being so transparent, and I'll give you the final word on that.
Yeah, I think, just to say there's huge advantages if you do shut the door, because it will force business leaders and people managers to really think about how to do meaningful communication and to set down the communication channels. There's also many other advantages. It means that business leaders will be leading businesses, which is what they should be doing, rather than just sitting the other side of the open door and answering all sorts of queries that are coming from employees. And it's very easy to develop a dependency culture. Then you just get employees coming in time and time again to ask you as a business leader all these questions that they should be resolving themselves. So there's all sorts of benefits from this, of closing or abandoning an open door policy completely.
Well, we've been enjoying this conversation, and we have been enjoying this conversation with Barry Phillips. His talk is called Why It's Time to Ditch Open Door Policies in the Workplace. It's an idea whose time has come and probably gone. And we are going to pivot over to you, Talk Universe, because we're going to be talking about the Blitz round in just a moment. And we're back with Barry Phillips. It is time for the Blitz round. I'm going to ask Barry a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of his recent talk. Barry, are you ready?
Hit me, Nathan.
All right. Did you apply to speak, or were you invited?
I applied to something like about 5 TEDx venues throughout the UK. 3 ignored me, 1 got back and said thanks but no thanks, and 1 said yes. Okay, let's do it.
Those were typical results if you double it by 2 or 3 in my case. So congratulations, sir. Are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender?
I'm a memorizer.
How did that serve you?
Maybe that's for others to judge, but it helps me go onto the stage and think, okay, I know what I'm going to say, and I'm going to be okay. So it served me in terms of confidence. It's what I'm used to. The big ones I memorize, others I will blend or I will ad-lib.
Okay.
But the big ones,
so you walk out on stage, Barry. Did you have nerves, or were you in the zone, or neither, or both?
I had a few butterflies. I always think if you never have butterflies before a presentation, that's the time when it's going to go wrong. You've got to respect the occasion. And if you haven't got butterflies and you're not a bit nervous, something's wrong, So, but I visualize my butterfly and my nerves as butterflies, and I just try and see them lining up alongside me and actually working with me and moving with me rather than fluttering everywhere. So it's a visualization technique which I think works quite well.
Barry, what's a tip, tool, or a technique that helped you?
I think just having a friend whose advice you can trust on it. You know, you've got to get somebody who will be critical and will help you. And you've got to have somebody that will tell you when some content is not working. You know, if you go to the wrong people and they just say, Barry, that's fine, it's of no use to you. You know, and you get one chance to get this right. So you have to really work on it.
We've been enjoying the Blitz Round with Barry Phillips. His talk is called Why It's Time to Ditch Open Door Policies in the Workplace. If you want to check out this excellent talk, you can go to our show notes page at BeTheTalk.com. We will have a link to it right there. And if you want to be able to connect with Barry, his website is legalisland.com. There is a hyphen, legal-island.com. And we'll be back with Barry Phillips. It is time for the final word of advice in just a moment. And we're back with Barry Phillips. It is time for the final word of advice to Talk Universe.
I'm going to finish with a quote from, I think it was Oscar Wilde. It may not be, but it was certainly an Irish writer. And he said about communication, he said, the danger of communication is to assume it has already taken place. And that's a big thing, I think, in many organizations, that managers, they just assume that the communication has happened, or that because it's been said, it's been understood. And communication is a lot more complex than that. So I think my advice is just focus a lot on the power and the importance of communication. And the more time you spend on it, the more you'll get back in rewards.
Barry Phillips, thanks so much for carving time out of your schedule and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe today.
It's been a pleasure, Nathan. It really has. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap. Excellent. Congratulations, our newest alumni.
Okay. Well, Jackie.
Our newest alumni. Oh, whoops, I just unmuted you and you unmuted yourself, so I remuted you accidentally there, Jackie. All right. Well, hey, and by the way, if you haven't already requested to join the Facebook alumni group, all three of you are soon-to-be alumni. And so great thing to do is you're watching this, Barry and Eric, go in the group. If you're already there, I guess I need to approve you, but go in there as soon as you can and do a little victory lap, make an honest post about how this was, warn the others. And I just thought, you know, what could I do to really connect, not just stay connected myself, which I really want to do, but I want to connect everybody else who we just have this brief amount of time, and it's like, how can we all stay connected? How can I connect all of you to one another? So that is that's something that I set up for that purpose, and yeah, that's about it. So Jackie, any questions? You are on deck. We have a little bit of a pinch here. I saw our next person was poking around in the waiting room. I almost added her, but she's not there anymore. So I'll probably add her whenever she jumps in, and she'll be muted as well. We'll see how many people I can have.
Do you need to mute me?
Oh, I will. Yeah, I'll mute you. There you go. You are muted now.
So any wise words, Eric and Barry, for now that you guys have had successful?
Well, they're muted, so.
Okay.
They're muted right there. Any questions for me, Jackie?
I'm good to go.
So it's Jacqueline
Boone.
All right. And there are all kinds of strange and we are still broadcasting, but I'll let everybody know this. When you are doing one-on-one interviews in the context of a 3-on-1 talk show, in the context of weird technology and, you know, chats and people entering the room and stuff, there are little fractional attention pieces, and one of those, I don't want to refer to you as the Dream Academy, so I'm actually writing Jackie's name down right here because there are all kinds of fractional IQ reducing things that I normally wouldn't have a problem with, but there's so much going on, and it's fun because I'm actually getting a lot better at this.
Totally understand.
every week I'm
would
getting
do the
much
exact
better.
same thing.
So if it looked like I was writing down Jackie's name because it wasn't right up there and I couldn't cheat, and I don't have my spreadsheet because when I did Skype, it was a split screen and it was just looked very nice. And Zoom, the software does not have that same functionality with Zoom, meaning whatever I show, if I'm flipping through spreadsheets, which I don't do because it shows everything. So we don't do that anymore. So how living the life you love can save the world. I'm going to practice your bio here, and then we're going to jump in here. Jacqueline Boone is the founder of Boone Consulting, a global digital marketing and learning company, and the creator of blog and web series 6 Months to Live. Jacqueline is at her best when working with mission-driven companies and entrepreneurs to make a profound impact on a global scale. And it's booneconsulting.co, and I am scrolling way over here to my notes so that I can look at all that. Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be fun. And I see the notes, but I'm on my phone. I'm just scrolling frantically.
You're doing great, Nathan.
I've got a tablet. I'm going to have to put a second tablet over here because that's going to make it a little less ridiculous and a little less amateurish looking here. All right, we're good. All right. Now, was that Normal, Illinois, or was that a different Normal or Normal, Illinois? Fine town.
The theme was anything but normal.
Anything but normal. Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I've been there. It's a great town. It's very flat.
Yes.
It's a very flat place to be. I just looking around. I'm like, this is flat. My word. Okay. Well, good. Any final questions before we go live here?
I'm
All
good
right.
to go.
Awesome. Well, we are live in 3, 2. Actually, what we're going to do first, sorry for the false alarm. If you can give me a 5 count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We're about even. Sorry for the balk. All right. We are live for real in 3, 2. We are live with Jacqueline Boone. Jackie, are you ready to talk?
I was born ready.
Jackie Boone is the founder of Boone Consulting, a global digital marketing and learning company, and the creator of blog and web series 6 Months to Live. Jacqueline is at her best when working with mission-driven companies and entrepreneurs to make a profound impact on a global scale. Jacqueline Boone, welcome to the talk.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Your talk is called How Living a Life You Love Can Save the World. And I love this because, hey, Talk Universe, if you've ever thought, maybe when you were a recent graduate or something like that, if you've ever thought about doing something just radical like teaching in the middle of rural, middle of nowhere China, that's what Jacqueline did. So we're going to hear the backstory of this. I love the talk, and I love what you shared about that. And it's really a talk about how, many of us, we have access to a global perspective. We have access and privilege and access to the technology and all this awareness. The kids that you were able to teach and had the privilege of teaching in very rural China, they had no knowledge of that. So we got to see through your eyes, through their eyes, kind of the lens of cultural, a little bit, I'll just say, mistrust and a little skepticism from these very young, innocent children, and what you did to eventually win over that trust. Please, Jacqueline, take us behind the talk.
Well, it was, I was the only female foreigner in the town, and I was the second tallest woman in the town. And when I'm 5'7", so I'm tall, but I'm not that tall. And when I arrived, I did not speak Mandarin. So it was just throwing myself into a completely different culture and experience. And so what I realized very quickly is I needed to establish common ground and a common language. So I actually started with sports because I played varsity basketball and volleyball and a bunch of other sports. So I started showing up on the playground, which got me some street credit because basketball is super popular with Yao Ming. Mm-hmm. And then just really being part of the culture, making an effort, understanding. So it was an incredible experience to just even start understanding and not taking for granted. I think a lot of times you graduate. I'm actually finishing my book about that called Heart Language. And one of the lines in it is I graduated a freshly graduated optimist, showing up ready to take on the world. And what I didn't realize is that I think sometimes if you're taking on that kind of initiative, you're in a volunteer mindset. You want to help, but you don't realize that it's actually the culture doesn't necessarily need help in the way you think they do. So to really connect with them as fellow humans and to understand their perspective.
So I'm hearing three things right there. Number one, okay, we're going to address this out of the way. You were in very rural China, but they knew Yao Ming. So
Yes.
I guess you can't be anywhere in the world and not have popular culture extend if it's big and relevant enough. So was that interesting for you to build that bridge and discover, or did you figure they already knew who he was, or was that a little bit of a surprise to you?
I was definitely surprised. I mean, and China moves so rapidly. So I'm sure it's been 6 years since I've gone back to Mingyuan. And I'm sure if I went back, I'll be going back to China in October. It's already transformed a lot. They have access to computer cafes and to movies. What surprised me most was the shared language around American films in particular. So there was a lot of excitement and maybe some misconceptions that everyone has a 3-car garage and lives in a huge house and everyone is rich in the U.S. I think I mentioned in the talk, but at the end, I gave an oral English exam, and I had one of the students say to me, the question was, what did you learn in oral English this year? And she said, at first, I think you are bad because America makes war, and war is bad. But then I see that you are friendly. So now I think China and America can be friends. And so for me, that was like, if that's what was accomplished in this year, that's a great way to start, because we have so many, as you said, mistrusts and misconceptions just about each other, whether it's fellow Americans or around the world or China and America.
Yeah, and that was, thank you for going right there to that quote, because that was what I really left and walked away from your talk with, that you were able in the end to win over the trust of these children. And I thought it's almost like a throwback in a way, and I want to be careful and sensitive in the way that I say this, but 100 years ago, even 50 years ago, we were a lot less politically correct in whether we trusted someone, whether we didn't, and what we would say. I'm thinking almost like the Wild West 150 years ago, and there was almost like an echo of that. This child was so candid with you, and there's something very refreshing about that, and it was wonderful that you won that trust. So what did that strike you in a similar way, or were you just offended perhaps, or how did you take that? How did you react to that?
Well, that's a great question. So Chinese culture, I have found, and I love China deeply and dearly, and always will, and consider China a second home. So Chinese culture is very direct about things we would never be direct about, and very indirect about things we're direct about. So that, I remember I had a student come up to me, it was Christmas, and he basically said, "Teacher Jackie, may we give you some advice?" And I was like, oh gosh, I don't know what this is going to be. And he said, "You are too fat. You should lose some weight for the new year."
Oh my.
So it was a little more direct than I had wanted or expected. But I think that there's such a depth of culture. I mean, 4,000 years of history. The language is beautiful. So it's just, I think it's understanding. And you also have to keep in mind that the students, because they're so focused on education, they're not, there's a youth and an innocence that's there, that's not there. And if you were dealing with a 15-year-old American high school student.
For sure. So let's go back to this piece. You mentioned it was almost like a Teach for America program or something like that. We're idealistic. We graduate. We want to, we're aware that we're privileged and advantaged, and we want to give back, and we want to save the world, and we want to, do all these things. And I would be sure that you would agree that almost all of that, a very high measure of that, is a very good way to be. And yet, there's a little bit of unseen baggage that we all bring with that enthusiasm to try to maybe fix or change or do things, and it's unseen. What's your advice for the people in our lives? So we want to motivate them. We want to keep them motivated. We don't want to discourage them in any way. But how can we kind of educate or empower people to be aware of a little bit of the hidden downside? Is there a way that do we have to run in and make those mistakes over and over again? Or is there a way we can teach and learn from one another in that way?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ethan. So it was very similar to Teach for America. It's called World Teach, and it's a Harvard-affiliated nonprofit that does a year of teaching in a developing country or part of a country. And I think that it's World Teach is amazing. Teach for America is great. All of these different programs. But I think that we need to check our bias and check our assumptions. And the book that I'm writing is called Heart Language, which is rooted in the word Xin Li Hua, which means the inside of your word or the inside of your heart's language. And I really think it's about connecting with people first and not necessarily assuming that you know where someone has come from. We just don't know people's stories. We don't know what's going on in their lives. It's that saying, never judge someone until you've walked a day in their shoes. So I think that that's really where it begins. And I think that the idea of, doing great work in the world is fabulous, but making sure that we are coming to it with an open heart and mind.
Well, we definitely have to earn that respect and earn that trust in order to take another step and move with people. So we've been enjoying this great conversation with Jacqueline Boone. Her talk is called How Living a Life You Love Can Change the World, actually can save the world, rather. And we will be right back with Jacqueline in just a moment with the Blitz Round. And we're back with Jacqueline Boone. It is time for the Blitz Round. I'm going to ask Jacqueline a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of her recent talk. Jacqueline, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Were you invited to speak, or did you apply?
I was invited.
Did you walk out on stage, and did you have nerves, or were you in the zone, or neither, or both?
Both. So I actually was, I was just looking it up, Amy Cuddy's talk, the power poses.
Wonder Woman,
I was
yeah.
in a empty room doing the power poses, feeling a lot of nerves before I went on the stage. And then when I went on the stage, I just had this moment of there's nowhere else I'd rather be. There's nothing else I'd rather be doing. There's nothing else I'd rather be talking about. Like, I've just felt mostly grateful to be in that moment.
Yeah, well, and Simon Sinek, another famous TEDxer, fellow TEDxer, I'm not nervous. I'm excited. I don't have to do this. I get to do this. That same energy for sure. What's a tip, a tool, or technique that helped you?
So we actually were assigned speaking coaches, which was extremely helpful. And there were two questions, one from him and then one that I asked myself. The one from him was, if this talk is for anyone, who is the one person that this talk is for? And that really helped focus it, because actually the talk ended up being geared towards where I was when I was 16, and really focusing on that kind of idea of, I want to do something different that makes a difference in my life, but is that really possible? And talking to that younger me, or to people that at any stage of life are like that. And then the other question that I asked myself is, I have 8 minutes to share what is most important to me with the world, and like, what's the one thing I want to share with the world in this 8 minutes? So those two questions really helped focus it, so that it wasn't hopefully as meandering. Is more to the point and succinct.
So an 8-minute talk, great length, my word. So the cut for time question is, what was the most painful part of this that you had to actually cut out?
Well, there were a lot of questions and stories and anecdotes that I wanted to include, because obviously there's a lot of things that happened. I was actually surprised because I timed for 8 and the talk ended up being 6.
Oh, wow.
So
the other
it
way.
went faster than I thought.
Wow. Well, we've been enjoying this conversation with Jacqueline Boone. Her talk is called How Living a Life You Love Can Save the World. And if you want to check out that talk, we can show you where to go. Just go to our show notes page at BeTheTalk.com, and we will have a clickable link right there. And if you want to check out what Jackie is doing, find out about her upcoming book. The title, again, is
Heart Language.
Heart Language. I love it. You can go to BooneConsulting.co, Boone, B-O-O-N-E, consulting.co. And we'll be back in just a moment with the final word of advice for us, Talk Universe. And we're back with Jacqueline Boone. It is time for the final word of advice.
My final word of advice is live a life worth living. Go out and really connect with people. I think that we get so in our head about all the things that we're supposed to do, and we forget that the top regret of the dying is I wish I'd had the courage to live a life that was true to me. I think that if you are true to yourself and you're true to your heart and you're true to what you're here to do, not only are you going to live an extraordinary life, happy people don't make war. You're going to have so much more to give and to contribute to your community and to those around you.
Jacqueline Boone, thank you so much for coming on the talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
Thanks so much, Nathan. Pleasure to be here.
All right, that's a wrap.
Thank you.
Congratulations, our newest alumni, and welcome to Laura, who has, I'm going to unmute you, Laura. Hey, surprise. we're broadcasting, so, this is how we do it now. So, so I saw you, testing the Zoom out, and then I saw you came back, and I didn't want you, hanging out in the room all by yourself. I thought it would be a lot more fun, especially for you, if you got to join I guess it almost looks like a peanut gallery up here, which is great. So now here's what's going on. We are a few minutes over, and all of you have been awesome. What I'm going to do is shut down the Facebook Live. We're going to do a fresh one with Laura. And Laura, you're actually the only guest on the next hour, so we're going to do a fresh Facebook Live with you. I'm going to take a couple-minute break if that's okay, and I'm using the second screen, so I'll pull you up on the second screen, get all prepped up, get ready to go, and I'm going to thank Eric and Barry and Jacqueline for being awesome. You guys can unmute and just say goodbye, and feel free to spread and share and comment on this video. Hey, everybody watching, I was a little under the gun. This isn't the creepy person, the kid from The Shining. This isn't that. This is what we want you to do over the share button. We want you to spread these messages. It's amazing. They were all about globalization. They were all about culture. They were all about nuance and communication, every single one. So I love how there's always a theme to the day or the hour, and it's great that we can put all these together. So I'm going to say goodbye to the three of you, and I'm going to end the broadcast, and we're going to keep the Zoom going with Laura, but I'm going to shut down the Facebook Live. Don't you go anywhere, Laura. Right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day or evening. Bye.
Bye.
Now I've got to figure out how to shut this down. Okay, finish. Is that what I'm doing? Yeah, the software. Okay.